Hey there, passionate Manchester City supporter. The news coming from the Etihad behind the scenes in this final stretch of the season is nothing short of breathtaking. When everything seemed to be falling apart amid a year full of challenges, an unexpected twist reignites the fans' hopes. Rodri is close to returning to the pitch. That's right. The engine of the sky blue midfield, absent since his serious knee injury against Arsenal, is already back training with the first team. Sources close to the club confirm that the goal is to have him ready for the eagerly awaited clash against Bournemouth, which will also see a tribute to Kevin De Bruyne. It will be a symbolic moment, the return of one pillar of the team and the farewell of another. Rodri is not just any player. He represents the balance, the brain, and the heart of the team led by Pep Guardiola. His absence has been felt across all areas of the pitch. The impact of his injury is visible in the numbers and, most notably, in the performances. Without him, City lost rhythm, lost intensity, and lost control of games that once seemed easy. Pep has acknowledged in recent interviews that the failures of the season cannot be attributed solely to bad luck or injuries. According to him, there are important lessons being learned, including by himself, amidst the turbulence of this campaign. But let's face it, Rodri's absence has really shaken the tactical structure of the team. The midfield lost cohesion, and even the defense became more exposed. With the Spaniard out of action, the task of protecting the back line and initiating plays became scattered among players who, as talented as they are, don't have the same level of reading and execution. Now, with his return drawing near, the fans can dream of a more promising end to the season, especially with the FA Cup final and the Club World Cup ahead. Even if Rodri is not yet 100%, his mere presence on the bench already represents a psychological boost for the squad. According to internal sources, there is great expectation that he might even play a few minutes against Crystal Palace in the FA Cup final. While a starting spot remains uncertain, any contribution could make the difference, and City knows this. Guardiola, for his part, avoids raising unrealistic expectations. He wants the player to be well and fully recovered for next season but does not rule out a sporadic role in these decisive moments. In addition to Rodri, another name that is making waves behind the scenes at Manchester City is Gabriel Sara, the Brazilian midfielder currently at Galatasaray. The name may come as a surprise to many, but those who follow Turkish football know that the player has excelled in all areas of midfield play. Versatile, technical, and with a good eye for goal, Sara has become a favorite of coach Okan Buruk, and it's no coincidence that his market value has skyrocketed. Manchester City, which needs to restructure with the imminent departure of De Bruyne and uncertainties over Bernardo Silva's future, is keeping an eye on reinforcements that will bring balance and fresh ideas to the midfield. Gabriel Sara, according to Turkish newspapers, could be released for 34 million, a reasonable fee compared to what he can offer on the pitch. In fact, his former coach in England, David Wagner, had already warned that the Brazilian had abundant talent for the English second division. Perhaps now is the moment for him to take a leap and prove his worth at one of Europe's biggest clubs. With Sara, City could secure not only a quality replacement for De Bruyne, but also someone who fits Guardiola's dynamic profile, players who can operate in multiple positions and know when to accelerate or slow down the game. The possible call-up of Sara to the Brazilian national team for the June fixtures could further raise his value, which leads the club to consider closing the deal before then to avoid competition or price inflation. Meanwhile, another name that could have been at Manchester City since his youth days is once again under the spotlight: Pedro Neto. The Portuguese player, who now plays for Chelsea, was on City's radar during his time at Braga. They even sent a private jet to take him to Manchester, showing him the project, the stadium, and the facilities, all to convince him to join Pep's team while still very young. However, he chose a different path and went on to play for Lazio and Wolverhampton before arriving in London for a bargain $54 million. Rui Santos, the coach who worked with him in the youth ranks, revealed that Neto always had a special shine. He's not a center forward, but a winger who loves to drive at defenders, cut inside, and finish. Quick, skillful, and with a competitive mindset, he could have been a gem polished by Guardiola. Now at Chelsea, he faces competition from young players like Estevão Willian and Kendry Páez, which could reignite the possibility of a move in the future. And it's worth remembering, if City gets another chance to sign him, history shows that the interest has never fully disappeared. Behind the scenes, there are whispers that if Pedro Neto becomes available again, his name will be discussed by the club's decision-makers. But is it still worth it? Has the moment passed? Or is there still time to rescue a talent that, deep down, has always had eyes on the Etihad? These are just a few of the names linked to the restructuring Guardiola is planning. The midfield will be the most affected area, and this is where another possible target comes into play. Frankie De Jong. The Dutchman, currently at Barcelona, may be on his way out as his contract nears its end, and the Catalan club struggles with financial difficulties. Pep has worked with De Jong before and knows the potential of the number 21. There are rumors that City, Arsenal, and Liverpool are keeping an eye on the situation, but the citizens would have an advantage due to the relationship between Guardiola and the player, as well as the compatibility of their playing styles. Just imagine a midfield with Rodri and De Jong side by side, defensive solidity combined with game vision and attacking dynamism. It would be a way to ensure that, even with the departure of historical figures, the team remains competitive and ambitious in all competitions. De Jong still has a market, but his contract situation and Barcelona's internal problems make the negotiation more accessible. City is closely monitoring the situation and may make its move at the right moment. Guardiola knows he needs to act quickly. This current season has shown that the squad, despite its talent, is not invincible. The lack of depth in certain positions became evident, and Rodri's absence exposed how dependent the team is on certain key players. With De Bruyne saying goodbye and the possibility of losing other important names, the upcoming transfer window will be decisive for what lies ahead. While the reconstruction of the midfield is unfolding behind the scenes, the current moment for City demands total focus on the final matches of the season. There is still something to be won. And even though the Premier League title has slipped from their hands for the first time in 4 years, the club knows that finishing the campaign with trophies could redefine the tone of the narrative. The FA Cup final against Crystal Palace will be more than just a simple decision. It's the chance to give a response to the critics, to show that the club's winning spirit remains intact. And having Rodri at least on the bench during this final could be the missing detail to transform a balanced game into a victory. Crystal Palace will not be an easy opponent. They have shown tactical organization, physical strength, and determination. But Manchester City, even in a year that is below what we've been accustomed to, is still Pep Guardiola's team. It's still the club that set the standard for excellence in recent English football. However, while Guardiola is thinking about the FA Cup, his mind is already focused on the future. The next season will begin with new challenges. The FIFA Club World Cup, which will be played in an expanded format, will see City face strong international opponents. Therefore, strengthening the squad is not just an option, but an obligation. In this context, the arrival of Frankie De Jong would send a message to the football world. City is not just restructuring, it is reinventing itself with ambition. What stands out about De Jong is precisely his tactical intelligence. He can play as a defensive midfielder when Rodri is unavailable, he can be the more advanced playmaker, and he is also capable of breaking lines with dribbles and vertical passes. He is the type of player who easily adapts to Guardiola's possession-based and high-pressing style, and most importantly, he wouldn't require a long adaptation period. He has already played at a high level, been tested in pressure situations, and knows what it's like to defend a mass-market club like Barcelona. From a strategic perspective, bringing in someone like De Jong would relieve the responsibility from Phil Foden and Mateo Kovacic, who have been forced to take on bigger roles after the absences of Rodri and De Bruyne. Foden, by the way, has had a season of ups and downs, with flashes of brilliance, but also moments where he was isolated in the game. The presence of someone with Frankie's game reading could further enhance his performance. But what about Bernardo Silva? The Portuguese is one of the most beloved players by the fans and has been a tactical joker for Guardiola. However, every transfer window brings rumors of his departure. He has been linked with PSG, Barcelona, and Saudi Arabia. If Bernardo really leaves the club, the creative responsibility will fall even more on the new arrivals. In this scenario, Frankie De Jong becomes even more important. His vision, combined with experience and rhythm control, would make the transition after Bernardo much smoother. Another name that could surprise is Morgan Gibbs-White, currently at Nottingham Forest. Young, skillful, with a strong presence in the final third, he also impresses the coaching staff. City is monitoring his progress and sees him as an interesting alternative, especially if the primary targets are not feasible. Versatility is the main attraction. Gibbs-White can play as an attacking midfielder, second striker, or even as a false nine, depending on the situation. And Guardiola values this type of player, someone who can change the dynamic of a match with a different positioning. The same reasoning applies to Gabriel Sara. Although many consider the signing risky, there are those who see it as a masterstroke. Sara has consistency, regularity, and an often underestimated factor: the ability to adapt to different tactical cultures. At Galatasaray, he showed he could shine away from home, and this is an important indicator for anyone needing to establish themselves in a squad like Manchester City's. His experience in Turkey was, for many, the true acid test for the Brazilian. If it worked there, with the pressure and expectations of Turkish football, it could also work at the Etihad. Of course, none of these moves make sense without a clear plan for what the spine of the team will look like next season. The defense seems more solid, with Ruben Dias, Ake, Gvardiol, and Walker maintaining a good level, despite some fluctuations. The attack, with Haaland, Doku, and Grealish, continues to be feared. But it is in the midfield where City needs to rebuild its DNA. Guardiola's ideal trio has always been composed of players who think quickly, execute with precision, and know how to control the tempo of the game. De Bruyne, Rodri, Bernardo. With two of those names facing possible departures or the end of their cycle, the challenge is huge. In parallel, the club continues to be remembered for its near-signings stories. Pedro Neto is the most recent example of a talent that came very, very close to wearing the sky blue shirt. And seeing his performances at Chelsea, the inevitable question arises: did we let slip a player who could be a key figure today? Neto has qualities that are lacking in City's current squad: speed in transition, aggressiveness in one-on-one situations, decision-making power. His trajectory of growth in recent years indicates he is ready to take on a prominent role in any elite team. Perhaps the missed opportunity with him is a reminder for the club to act more quickly with future targets. These movements also show that Guardiola, despite being a strategist obsessed with the present, never loses sight of what comes next. The construction of a new Manchester City is underway, and although the 2024-25 season has not gone as expected, it may well be the starting point for a new era. Every great team needs, at some point, to reinvent itself, and perhaps, as painful as the setback this season has been, it may be the necessary push for the next version of City to be even stronger. What is clear is that the club has learned from its mistakes. The over-reliance on key players has been exposed, and now the technical direction is looking to create a deeper squad, with real alternatives for every position. Fans, even though disappointed with the dip in performance, remain loyal. They know the project is solid, and that decisions are being made with a long-term vision in mind. Frustration exists, of course, but it is accompanied by cautious hope. City may have stumbled, but it is far from having fallen. The feeling at the Etihad is one of transition, from a cycle that is coming to an end to another that is slowly beginning to take shape, piece by piece. The fans feel this in the small signs. A more emotional speech from De Bruyne, Bernardo Silva's hesitation when talking about his future, the way Guardiola analyses defeats with more philosophy than frustration. There's something different in the air. The Manchester City we know, dominant, infallible, may be shedding its armor to dress in something new, and this change is not necessarily negative. On the contrary, it could be the source of renewal for a club that refuses to age. With the possible arrival of names like Gabriel Sara or Frankie De Jong, City is not just looking to replace players, but to rethink its style. Sara, for example, brings something that many of the current midfielders do not offer naturally: penetration. The ability to break lines with short bursts, receive between the opposition midfielders' backs, and step into the box as an additional attacker. Guardiola has always valued this kind of player. In his early years at City, the manager did this with David Silva and Ilkay Gundogan. Now, with Sarra, he could find a new version of this tactical piece. De Jong, on the other hand, would be the stable base around which everything could revolve. He has the perfect profile to dictate play from deep, alternate the rhythm of possession, and break the first line of pressure with vertical passes. The possibility of seeing Rodri and De Jong together in midfield is not just exciting, it's functional. Rodri, with his game reading and physical presence, would give Frankie the freedom to explore the field. Guardiola, as he has shown in other seasons, loves forming central midfield partnerships that complement each other, rather than repeating profiles. With these two on the pitch, the midfield would regain control and variation, something that was lacking in many games this season. In this process of renewal, there is also room for internal talent. Oscar Bob, Rico Lewis, James McAtee, names that have been tested gradually, inserted into lower-risk matches, but now may be challenged to take on bigger roles. Guardiola has already shown he believes in these young players, albeit with caution. The idea is to build a new foundation without losing the essence of the project: possession, intensity without the ball, and dominance of space. And for that, it's not enough to have good players. The right squad is essential. While the fans speculate about new signings, one question keeps repeating in the corridors of the Etihad. What about Erling Haaland? The Norwegian striker remains City's main offensive figure, but he has faced criticism this season for some invisible performances. Still, his numbers remain impressive, and few believe he has reached his ceiling. What Haaland might be missing, perhaps, is a more creative midfield around him. With De Bruyne missing more games due to injury and Bernardo having to drop deeper to help with build-up play, Haaland has often been isolated between the defenders. With the right reinforcements in midfield, Haaland's own performance could level up. Frankie De Jong, with his precision in both short and long passes, would be an ideal bridge between defense and attack. Sarra, with his offensive instinct, would draw defenders and open spaces. And even if these names aren't the final choices, the club's intention is clear: to restore fluidity to the attacking system, reduce predictability, and regain the dynamism that characterized the best moments under Guardiola. On the emotional side, the possible departure of Kevin De Bruyne will be a watershed moment. The Belgian has not officially confirmed his departure, but all signs point to him preparing for it. His legacy at City is immense, perhaps the greatest among midfielders of the modern era. With his vision, passing accuracy, and presence in big games, De Bruyne has been the brain behind the club's major achievements. His absence will be felt not only by the fans, but by his teammates as well. Replacing him in terms of talent is almost impossible. Guardiola's mission at this point is to find a new collective logic that minimizes the individual loss. And this process, although painful, could also be the birth of new leadership within the squad. Ruben Dias is already seen as a strong voice in the dressing room. Phil Foden, increasingly mature, is beginning to take on responsibility in difficult moments. Even quieter names like Ake and Kovacic have gained prominence behind the scenes, guiding the younger players and helping to maintain the unity of the group. City are far from being a team in crisis, but they stand at a crossroads. Continue betting on the continuity of a cycle that has given everything to the club, or accept that renewal, as risky as it may be, is the only way to remain at the top? Guardiola, by all accounts, has chosen the latter. And as always, he is one step ahead. He's seen this movie before, at Barcelona, when he said goodbye to Ronaldinho and Deco to make way for Messi, Busquets, and Iniesta. At Bayern, when he restructured an aging midfield to make it lighter and more technical. At City, he'll do the same. The transfer window will be intense. The board knows it needs to act with precision, not only in technical terms but also financially. UEFA's financial fair play is stricter, and the club needs to maintain its reputation off the field. That's why every negotiation will be studied in detail. Players like De Jong, Gibbs-White, and Sarra offer different profiles and levels of risk. The final choice will depend not only on individual quality, but also on how each player fits into the puzzle Guardiola is assembling. What's at stake is more than a trophy, a qualification, or a signing. What's at stake is the future of Manchester City, the identity of a club that has gone from being just a financial powerhouse to becoming a technical, tactical, and structural reference. The transition may be complex, but it's necessary. And if any club is ready to deal with this kind of transformation, it's City. Now, with the details of potential moves, exits, and signings that may shape the next season, it's clear that Manchester City is more than prepared to react. But what stands out, above all, is the reconstruction strategy that Pep Guardiola has in mind. After a period of absolute dominance, now it's time to build something new, adjust the team's dynamics, and, most importantly, maintain competitiveness at the highest level. The end of the 2024-2025 season will be crucial. The FA Cup is still within reach, and who knows, the Club World Cup too. These titles may not solve all problems, but they will carry significant value, both for the players and for the fans' confidence. Even more important is the following season, which will undoubtedly be marked by many changes. The departure of icons like De Bruyne and the arrival of new names such as Sarah, De Jong, or even an unexpected signing could be the fuel necessary for another cycle of success. And that's the beauty of football, the constant evolution, the constant adjustment of pieces. When the next transfer window opens, expectations will be high. Manchester City is not only preparing to renew itself, but to continue being a reference in world football. That's why every movement, every signing, and every player who enters the radar carries the weight of keeping the club at the top. And you, as a fan, know how important it is to always be ahead, with a team that reinvents itself without losing its essence. I'll stay here, hoping that this team comes back stronger, more united, and more victorious next season. And now, to you, City fan, who followed through to the end. If you like this content and want to stay updated on all the news and rumors about Manchester City, make sure to subscribe to our channel. Like the video and activate notifications so you don't miss any updates. The future is promising, and with it, new stories, new titles, and, who knows, the chance to see City conquer even more glory. A big hug, and see you in the next video. We're together.